Welcome back to the Brew Bucks podcast. My name is Jacob.
And I'm Alec.
On this podcast, we interview successful entrepreneurs, personal finance creators, speakers, authors, and everything in between.
We like to keep things casual around here by cracking a beer with our guests at the beginning of every show. There's nothing quite like having a conversation with your friend while sipping on a cold one.
If you're looking to learn more about money and entrepreneurship, all while having some fun along the way, this podcast is for you. Welcome back to episode number 34 of the Brew Bucks podcast. How we doing, Buccaneers? It must be Monday because it is me and Alec here again today. Our buddy Doug has filled in for the last 2 weeks, but after some poor financial decisions, Alec is back. He's back and he's better. Yeah. So,
unlike
up,
Garfield, I actually enjoy Monday because it's always podcast day, so it makes me happy, even though, I had to miss 2 of them, unfortunately, so I'm sorry, guys, but Doug's got a great voice. He's a great replacement.
Yeah, dude, you finally broke out of the closet, so
oh man, I
couldn't
know.
stop you from taking that mic back.
I've got one crazy story for you though. So we're on the vacation with the Universal Studios. We drove there totally fine, had a great time. On the drive back though, on that damn I-5, I get pulled over.
I've been there.
Oh, it's terrible. Just want to pass those trucks. Get pulled over. The cop's like, okay, license, registration, the whole ordeal. He then goes, wait a minute, are you Alec? I'm like, yeah. He's like Alec from Brew Bucks podcast? And I go,
oh my God, shut up. Jesus. I was invested in that story. I was like, oh, you didn't tell me about this yet. That was good. Because everyone can see your face through this freaking microphone, Alec. Right on.
Dude, those 10 stickers we've slapped around, people have seen those.
Oh my gosh. All right. Read the question of the day.
All right. Well, this is a good question. I like this one. I think this is one everybody can learn from. So it comes from Aaliyah from South Carolina. So shout out to Aaliyah in South Carolina. Thanks for writing to us. The question of the week is, do you have any holiday savings tips? Christmas always seems to end up on a credit card.
Ooh, this is a good topic because Christmas is right around the corner. It seems like really Christmas shopping begins in November, and it is now, by the time this episode comes out, I think November 7th. I think that's the date. And everyone should be doing a bit of that. So really here is what I recommend for Christmas shopping. One, always make sure that you set a budget at the beginning of every year of what you want to spend on holiday shopping. And don't go over this budget. You know, if you say, hey, I only want to spend $1,000, make sure that you've got a system in place to only spend $1,000. Also, break up that amount that you plan on spending during the holidays and put aside a little chunk every single month. You know, if you're going to spend $1,200 on Christmas presents, every month put $100 away so that when you get to December, hey, I have $1,200 ready to go and your monthly budget is taking less of an impact because you've been saving throughout the year. They're called sinking funds, and your Christmas sinking fund is a really great one to have because again, getting to December and be like, man, you know, my normal budget is $6,000 for all my monthly expenses, and now I have to also account for $1,200 in Christmas presents. Like that can be a pretty big burden. Other than that, if you're really tight on money, I would just try to look at other options. You know, can you create something for people? Maybe, you know, make something by hand. Can you, write maybe nice letters or something if maybe it's a year where you're going through a job transition or something like that, and talk with your family, be open about it, and no one can hate on you for, maybe not buying them the new iPhone or some crazy expensive gift. You know, at the end of the day, it is all about the thought and the art of giving, right? So that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's very important to remember, I love buying Christmas presents, but I have to resist myself sometimes. Like I know I don't need to spend $100 on every person I know as much as I enjoy buying gifts for people. I enjoy giving back. So
yeah, agreed. So anywho, today we interviewed our buddy Jeremy from Personal Finance Club, and he has been on my whiteboard of people wanting to interview really since we started the podcast because he is just one of the greatest in the space. He created Personal Finance Club back in 2019, I believe is what he said, and it just exploded pretty much from day one because his content is great, his story is great, the advice that he's giving is great, and he's just so knowledgeable. He retired at 36 years old as a multimillionaire and is really living the dream and now trying to help spread the word and help other people achieve it. So without further ado, let's bring in our buddy Jeremy. Jeremy, welcome to the Brew Bucks podcast officially. I have been looking forward to this interview for a long time and super excited to hang out with you and get to know you a little bit more.
Hey guys, glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. I mean, I love hearing your story, and I'm glad to hear it from you and not from just your social media. So it's gonna be fun.
Great. Well, I love talking about myself, so that's perfect. Just kidding.
All right, Jeremy. So as you might know, we're going to start off each show by talking about what type of brew we will be sipping on today. Whether it's a nice cup of coffee or a nice cold beer, there's something different about having a conversation with your buddy with a drink in your hand. Our goal is to be able to provide some interviews and conversations with awesome guests while not taking ourselves too seriously and most importantly, having some fun along the way. So, Alec, what did you bring today?
All right. Well, today I'm drinking a beer from one of my favorite breweries around called Jester King Brewery. They are located in Texas, not Austin.
Texas.
It is Austin, Texas. Yeah. So Jake and I have been to the brewery before. It's really cool. It's a very self-sustainable brewery. They make pizza. Their own. It's pretty cool just being there. You can tell it's definitely like a farm brewery type situation.
They try to grow all their own ingredients and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So today I brought them their Lapite Prince. It is a farmhouse table beer, and let's give it a sip.
2.9%. It's definitely the lowest volume beer we've had.
And it's definitely light. It's nice and crisp, perfect for like a warm day at the river, I'd say. It is a farmhouse table beer, which is kind of interesting because those go back to like in Northern Europe, back to, don't quote me on the year, but around the 1700s or so, when pretty much everybody just drank beer all day long for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And farmhouse table beers were often used as a everyday, all-day drinkable item because a lot of the water wasn't safe or fresh to drink. So it's kind of fun.
There you go. Instead of drinking water, just drink beer all day.
Yep.
Like to live in that time. Well, I decided to do something different today. I remember a while back there was a video of some guy who got like assaulted with a can of Twisted Tea. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think it turned into a meme. It was like a YouTube video for a little while. And so today I was looking at the shelf and I was like, we haven't done tea on the podcast. It's a type of brew, right? You brew tea. And so I was like, I think I'm going to do Twisted Tea and see what this whole hype is about. So I grabbed one and it tastes like iced tea with a little kick to it. I'm one of those people who drinks tea every morning. I don't. Coffee is more of like a lunch thing for me. Tea's first thing in the morning. So
is there booze in that?
Yeah. So it's fine. It's actually 5%. It's by Twisted Tea Brewing Co. out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And I think it was like at a grocery store or like convenience store.
It looked like a little 7-Eleven, and I'm pretty sure the guy made a very racist comment to the person behind him, and then they kind of was a little shovel, and he dropped the Twisted Tea. When he went to bend it down, the guy called him something vulgar word, and the moment he got up, he just took the Twisted Tea and bashed him in the head with it. It exploded all over his face, and nobody was mad that he hated him because the other guy was just being terrible to the man, so it was asshole, okay. Yeah.
Assault by Twisted Tea. So, yeah. Jeremy, what you got?
You informed me before we started recording. It's a repeat from last week. I have a Firestone Walker Mind Haze IPA because it's a California brewery.
Yeah.
But last week's episode hasn't aired at the time of the recording of this episode, so I can't really be held to blame for having a repeat. And also, it's noon here and I have a workout and stuff scheduled, so I'm gonna be sipping from this other glass.
Excuses.
And we're gonna say that it's beer, and I'm getting just kind of like a contact high from having the can near my head because so
I love it.
It is 6.2% and yours is 2.9%, so on average, me not drinking mine, you drinking 2%, it all works. I think that's how the numbers shake out.
Oh, right on. Well, cheers, Jeremy. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Cheers.
So let's kick this thing off, and I guess we really like to start by getting to know you a little bit better. So what was life growing up for you like, specifically around the area of Money?
I grew up in a dusty little town of Michigan. I actually had this middle school teacher who assigned some book report that was like super hard. And apparently everyone in the class, except for me, had Cliff Notes. And the Cliff Notes version of the report said, so-and-so, whatever the character's name was, from a dusty little town of so-and-so. And then he started reading all the people that had just plagiarized, and they all took out the dusty part. They all said he's from, because every eighth grader was at least savvy enough to know, I would never say a dusty little town. This is not at all answer your question, but it does seem like a ridiculous way to describe someone. So everyone everyone said they're from a dusty little town, except for me because I didn't have Cliff Notes, and so I unfortunately just did a really bad book report. But in hindsight, it actually ended up working out great. Yeah, I grew up in Michigan, middle class. My parents were frugal. They were poor when they got married, so my whole life I had like kind of extreme frugality beat upon me against my will. And they eventually started doing better. They got divorced when I was in high school, but they both like climbed their way up the corporate ladder and in computer companies. My dad at IBM and my mom at a small software company, and then ended up doing just fine.
Got it. Did they teach you anything about, I guess, money principles growing up?
Yeah, I mean, notably, I'm obviously big on investing these days. And when I got my very first job at 16, I was working at a summer camp and made $1,200 for the summer. And my dad cleverly knew the rules of a Roth IRA say that you can't contribute more than you make per year. So if you don't have a job as a child, you can't be putting money into a child's Roth IRA. But at 16, when I had a job, he said, hey, I'm going to take $1,200 of his money and then basically matched my salary and put his money, gifted it to me and put it into the Roth IRA. And so letter of the law, I was like technically contributing all of my money, all of my income to this Roth IRA. And then we sat down and opened a Fidelity account, and like he told me how to choose mutual funds, which isn't exactly what I do these days, but still a perfectly fine way to invest. And I just thought that was normal. And then like in my 30s, when I started becoming more of a serious aficionado, I'd like have these conversations and say, hey, what mutual funds are you guys in or whatever? And people would be like, what? And I was like, you didn't do this in high school? And so I realized that's not necessarily a typical experience.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dad for teaching what they should be teaching in high school.
Yeah, getting you started early. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So
I mean, if we all started those Roth IRAs in high school, I'm sure there'd be a lot more millionaires in this world.
Yeah.
I had a job when I was 16, probably making close to $1,200 a month, probably more than that at the time. And I wish I invested way more than I did, but you live and you learn. So
I made $1,200 for an entire summer for the Huckers. A very low paying job.
You probably had a lot of fun memories though for the summer camp.
That's true. It was definitely more fun than it was money.
Cool. So it seems like your dad kind of taught you something to do with money. Roth IRA is super important. We still talk about it every day today. So kind of after that, did you go into a higher education? If so, what did you study?
I sure did. I went to the University of Michigan in Michigan. I studied computer science. I ran track in college, and my life is like just swamped in privilege because I have parents who loved me and took care of me. They, helped with a college fund. I also got a track scholarship. And I also worked during the summers and after school, sometimes in the semester. And between all that, I was able to graduate not only debt free, but with like a surplus of about $6,000.
Nice. Step one of personal finance: get through college without racking up hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of student loan debt.
Yeah, that is a huge advantage if you can pull it off.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you get like a track scholarship or anything like that to help you pay it off?
Yeah, you said
I did. Yeah, my first. I was like only okay in high school, good enough where they considered me like a recruited walk-on. And then I'm 6'4", and I think that, and I was also young. I started college at 17, and I think the combination of those two things basically led to me like developing more as a runner later in my youth, I guess, like 18, 19, 20. And so after my freshman year, I ended up like emerging as one of the better runners on the team. And then I got a partial scholarship, which is nice because like there's not that many track scholarships to go around. It's not like football where basically everyone can go, and there's only 12 scholarships for a 45-person team. And like, 6 of them go to like superstars they recruit. And then there's like 6 for like split 30 ways or whatever. So getting a partial scholarship was pretty nice because they didn't have to, right? They knew I was like already enrolled. They didn't have to like, they could have used that to try to recruit someone new.
Got it. Cool. That's awesome. You still running a lot today?
No. I'm old. I'm 41.
Get out of here, old.
I play volleyball. I play beach volleyball. I work out, and the knees can only take so much. I run like every once a week or so, but I'm not. I don't know. It's tough because I'm like I'll never be as fast as I used to be. So it's like a kind of a depressing,
Yeah, totally.
metric.
I get it for sure.
Cool. I was gonna say, so you finished college. You're debt free. Have that extra 6,000 surplus. It sounds like, and then what's next for you?
Well, I had interned at Microsoft for 2 summers, and they offered me a very nice full-time job that was for $74,000 a year plus $15,000 in bonuses, which doesn't sound like that much these days, but I don't know, it's starting to like time is marching on. That was 20 years ago. So the equivalent today might be like double that or something, like 150,000. And so it was like a ton of money. And I turned it down, and instead I decided to start my own company because I didn't really want to work for a massive company and be a cog in the machine. And so, yeah, I just idiot 21-year-old decided to start a company having absolutely no idea what I was doing.
Gotcha. So I guess what came first, like building that successful business or your passion for personal finance? Is it something you kind of learned along the way, like upon the sale of it, or was it something that was kind of on the front of your mind from the beginning?
I think compared to other 21-year-olds at the time, I was probably slightly more financially savvy. I think I had like an E-Trade account and like bought and sold some random stocks. I had that Roth IRA. I was just, I wasn't super into it, but just most 21-year-olds don't even go that far.
Yeah.
And so I definitely was just focused on growing the company. And then I think the whole personal finance passion thing kind of came more in my 30s, partially when I sold the company and made a lot of money and didn't want to like lose that money. And so I learned a lot about it. And then also talking to my friends in their 30s who I realized didn't have this like youthful investing experience. And I was like, oh my gosh, like put your money to work for you so you can be rich and not have to work one day.
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, it'd be easy to be like, oh, well, Jeremy just sold the company and made a ton of money, all at once. And, it's not everyone can do that. But I think like what they're not seeing is how long did it take you to build up that company?
I think it was almost exactly 11 years from like the day I like registered the company to the day I sold it.
Yeah.
And yeah, then for those 11 years, I was like, before, during, and after the sale, I was living very frugally. Before the sale, I was the lowest paid employee of my company. All my employees made more than me. I was driving a 99 Ford Explorer, living in like a garage converted to an apartment, just living super frugal so I could like build the company. And then when I sold the company, I sold it for $5 million. My share after taxes was $2 million, which is obviously a ton of money. But today my net worth is over $4 million, not from selling another company, just from living below my means and investing. And for sure, that was 7 years ago now. Like you could definitely spend $2 million in 7 years. That's like a couple $100,000 a year or something. And so part of this whole process of building wealth was living frugally and investing.
Totally. Yeah. I think sometimes people don't see the behind the scenes part of someone taking the smallest salary at their company or, choosing to drive an older car to, I guess, have something better down the line, which you ended up being able to do by selling that company for $5 million, right? So that's awesome.
Cool. So, I mean, that's awesome. 11 years and then you sold the company. So can we kind of talk about those early years of when the business started? And like, was there ever times where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to make it? Or like, how was the first few years when that business started?
Rough, constantly. I mean, I still think today, like I'm obviously like pretty set financially today, but still like entrepreneurship is an emotional roller coaster because, a few weeks go by and the phone doesn't ring and you don't make a sale and you're just like, what am I doing? This is never going to work. I'm a piece of shit. Am I allowed to swear? We're drinking, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is worthless. I'm worthless. This could never work. And then, then you make a sale and then you're like, oh my God, if I do that, that only took me a day to do. If I do that every day and they pay this much per month, like I'm going to be a billionaire in 2 years. And so it definitely is this emotional roller coaster. And, for the first couple of years, I couldn't even afford to pay myself enough to eat. Like I think our top line revenue, my first 12 months of starting this company was $14,000. And that's like before the modest expenses of the company. And so maybe I could take home $10,000 or something. But that's less than $1,000 a month. And even back then, I couldn't even pay rent and eat on that. And so I was living on credit cards. I racked up $10,000 of credit card debt that first year, and not being like exorbitant with anything. I was like going to Meijer, which is like the Midwest example of Walmart, and like buying the national or the generic brand, like never the national brand, like cooking every meal at home, like just living super super frugal, because I wasn't making enough money to live any better than that.
Yeah, totally. It's not like you're out here buying cars on credit cards. It's I'm just trying to eat and support myself, you know. I think there's
Right.
definitely a big difference. Um
So I guess I might have missed it. And just for the listeners at home too, what was your business exactly?
It's an internet company. It's called Rent Links, and it's basically a rental housing syndication service. So if you're a renter and you're looking for an apartment, you could go to Zillow or Craigslist or apartments.com or rentals.com or apartment guide. And there's like 50 of these different apartment search websites. But for landlords, it creates a problem, which is how do you post to all these different sites? How do you keep your ad updated and accurate? How do you track all the incoming leads? And so I made a website with my eventual team where you could post once, automatically advertise on like 50 different websites, have those renter phone calls and emails be routed back through one platform, and just kind of like it's like a whole advertising network for landlords.
that's cool. Sounds like a great useful tool.
Yeah, it did. Well, I mean, what kind of made you think of that?
I mean, what just I explained in 20 seconds took me, 6 years to like figure out. It just shows like, that kind of clarity and simplicity wasn't easy for me, at least. I think it's not easy for a lot of people. And also it wasn't like some vision. I wasn't like, I woke up as a 21-year-old and I was like, you know what? There needs to be rental housing syndication. And it really was like, more iterative process of like, I found a landlord and they needed a website and I built it for them. And then I sold a second landlord website. Then I started going to like landlord association meetings and like trying to sell more websites. And then they kept giving me this feedback, which is like, my website's a pain in the ass and my uncle's nephew's cousin has the password and it just is such a hassle. But they're like, well, we need more leads. We want more renters calling us and emailing us. And around this time, there's like this emergence of all these new apartment search websites. So I was like, oh, maybe I can like go to these websites that have the leads and go to these landlords that have the content and like build the piping. And so it took years of figuring it out. And it definitely wasn't like, I give myself very little credit as a visionary and more credit as just a persistent person who just kept like eventually letting people saying the same thing to me over and over, be like, maybe I should just give them what they're asking for.
Love it. That's cool.
Did anybody else inspire you kind of like really go down the financial independent path to where you are now?
I feel like, the people we interview, there's always like some comment like, oh, I started with Dave Ramsey, or oh, I started with Mr. Money Mustache. Were like, there any of those people for you that started the rabbit hole?
Kind of. I'm glancing at my library. I think maybe in my early 20s, the first book I read in this space was Susie Orman, the money book for the young, fabulous, and broke. But also like, I mean, I was aware of Susie Orman, I was aware of Dave Ramsey, but before I started getting into this business, I didn't realize how many people were talking about money. I thought it was like just those two.
Yeah.
And there's like this whole world of these like finance content creators. And I more started reading books, not really by like those influencer type people, but more just like about how to invest, by like Jack Bogle or The Millionaire Next Door, or books like that, where I guess those are all influencers. I mean, they're all the same thing. I don't know. So I guess, yeah, I mean, that also I was like kind of inspired by, I'm 41 now. So I was in college from 98 to 03 during the .com boom and then successive busts. And so for my early college years, I was seeing these punk 20 somethings like just make up some nonsense business idea and get like millions of dollars thrown at them. And I was like, I should do that. And so I was more kind of inspired by the entrepreneurial, go after this big cash out win rather than, the slow and steady path to financial independence, which I didn't really even become familiar with the FIRE movement or Mr. Money Mustache until like, I think after I retired and I started learning about that stuff.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. So what age were you when you sold your company and I guess became financially independent?
Yeah, I sold the company at 34. And that my net worth was about $2 million. And then I worked for the company that bought us for the next 2 years. And then at 36 is when I quit that job and basically became retired early. And my net worth was around $3 million at that point. The next $1 million was from working and from the market going up and stuff like that over those 2 years. And I was like seeing the market, like my investments were growing faster than my income. And I was like, huh, maybe I don't need my income then. I can just, the investments can be the income. And so that was kind of the math I did when I decided to quit.
Gotcha. How did you choose to fill your time? You know, as a 36-year-old that is free. What did you pick up any hobbies, or what was your days like?
I think for the first year, I basically did what people do on Saturdays every day. I mean, what I immediately did was I'm a beach volleyball player, and there's these they import Southern California beach volleyball players to Italy to this like beach volleyball camp type thing over there. And my friends were doing it sometimes, and I was always so jealous. I was like, man, coaching beach volleyball in Italy seems like so cool. And I could never do it because I was running a company and had a job. And then I heard about it again, like as I was quitting, I was like, oh, I can totally do that this year. And so then literally like 3 days after I quit my job, I was on a plane to Italy and spent 2 months there coaching beach volleyball and traveling and just like doing the thing, which is awesome. And then, so then, yeah, for the next year, then when I got back, I was like playing video games. I did some more traveling, just did whatever you think you would do on Saturdays. And it was fun, it was all right. But honestly, like after a while, it started to get, I don't know if boring is the right word, but just like, I felt empty. Like, I don't know. It didn't really feel fulfilling. I didn't really feel like I was proud of my work. I didn't really want my story to be like, when I'm 70, someone's like, tell me about your life, Grandpa. I don't have grandchildren, but maybe I will one day. And I'm like, well, I sold a company when I was 34 and I've been a piece of shit since then. And so, yeah, I was like, I should probably do something with my life because it's still hopefully less than half over.
Totally. And so I guess maybe like a couple years later, COVID hit, and was that the birth of Personal Finance Club?
It started in January of 2019, where it was basically this year, and I was addicted to this video game called StarCraft 2, and then I went on vacation over New Year's of 2019, and then I didn't play for like 10 days. And so as addictions go, when you like have that cold turkey quit, the addiction wanes. And so as I got back, I was like, I should uninstall this game before I play one more game, or else I'll just get sucked right back into it. And so after that trip, I just uninstalled it. And then I opened up the Instagram account, Personal Finance Club. And that was the birth of it. I was like, all right, here's my new goal. I'm unemployed, retired, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to get 50,000 Instagram followers in the next year, which was like this audacious goal because I'm like this awkward, nerdy computer programmer guy who has no sort of presentation skills or, any sort of public persona experience. And that's how it started. Yeah.
That's incredible. Did you hit, you had to have hit 50,000 that first year, right?
I didn't. I think 12 months later, I had like 46,000 followers. And I think it took me like 12 and a half months or something like, so it's pretty close. Actually, discredit because I missed my goal, but credit for like actually picking a pretty accurate goal. I was pretty close to the 12-month mark. Yeah,
totally. Did you have kind of a business like frame behind doing this, or was it kind of just like a passion and a hobby at first, or did you see it kind of turning into what it is today?
Honestly, like it was never meant to be a business. I think if I was trying to start a business, I wouldn't become an Instagram influencer. That's kind of a ridiculous thing to do. I would go start a tech company because I have a master's in computer science and I have a successful acquisition, and there's like just zillions of dollars in tech right now, and I'm have a pretty like impressive, not that impressive, but like a type of resume where it could certainly be successful again. But I was like, I'm already rich. Why not famous? Then I could be rich and famous. I was like, all right, I'll get Instagram followers. But then it was bored during the pandemic. Now I have like 90,000 followers or something in 2020, and people are constantly asking me the same question. They say, how do I invest? What's an index fund? What's a mutual fund? What's a good investment? What's a Roth IRA? What's better, a Roth IRA or an index fund? And I'm like, when I hear these questions, I'm like, oh my God, I like need to tell you the answer, but I can't like answer them all individually via DM. So I thought, okay, I'm going to make a video course that walks through this stuff from beginning to end, like the Matrix style mind dump from like my mind to them. And then just like everything else I was doing, I was like, I'll just give it away for free. But then I was like, you know what, actually people don't really value free, and like, they're not going to finish the course. And I'm actually like kind of starting to spend some money on this thing just to like run the website and go to conferences and stuff. it'd be nice if I had a little bit of money to like cover my expenses. And so I decided to sell the course for $79, and I did a 1 week like early bird sale for $49. And then that first week we sold $110,000 worth of this course. And I was like, oh shit, this might be a business. It took me 3 years to make that much, or 4 years to make that much in my first business, but it took me a week to make in this one.
That's awesome. That's incredible. And I think it goes back to like you were able to build so much like brand loyalty and brand trust from the very beginning by giving away all this free content and just again putting your heart into it because it's something that you're truly passionate about. And obviously, everyone else noticed that and ate up your course. I think you priced it really reasonable too. You see a lot of people out there like, oh, my course is $1,500, but it's half off for $750. And you're out here saying, hey, here's a great amount of knowledge for a great price. The ROI on a $50 investment in a course like that is insane. So
yeah, sounds like easy money. Truthfully, I'm like, that's awesome. But yeah, I'm sure you were shocked too when you just went on probably a few days later and saw $100,000. You're like, holy cow, people like listening to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's astute what you said, because I kind of mistakenly backed into like building all this brand loyalty when I was just trying to like be helpful, but it turns out to be like really it's like effective sales technique, which is just to basically give everything away for free. And I think, when people ask me how to grow a following on Instagram, and I like look at their profile, and the worst mistake you can make is to make like an advertisement for your company. It's like seeing an Instagram that's just a bunch of ads for your company is like getting junk mail in your mailbox. You're like, oh, like I don't need to see that. And no one wants to see that. And so no one's going to like follow, no one's going to be interested. And it's a little bit kind of, that's obviously what people like want. They're like, oh, but I want to tell people about my company. But it's like counterintuitive. But what you really have to do is just have to give them a bunch of stuff for free. And so like this, and I even market this, like nothing is a secret. I say like, hey, everything that's in the course I've already posted about for free. There's no like, this isn't like the locked back room with like, oh, here's the real investing tips. It's all the same stuff. It's just organized in a walkthrough the way that an Instagram feed can't be. And so like the marketing technique is you take the course, you cut it up into little Instagram snippets, make it, format it so it's like really easy consume. Then people are like, oh man, this guy's great, knows what to talk about. And then you go to sell it, which is just like essentially a compilation of everything you posted for free. People are like tripping over themselves to get it. But it is counterintuitive because people don't want to give it away for free, but that's kind of like short-minded thinking. If you give it away for free, they're gonna be more likely to pay you for it.
Yeah, definitely. I love it.
Yeah, and definitely like looking at your profile too. I'm a big visual learner, so I love like your posts are very good. They have pictures and it's all very well put out there in simple terms for people that want to look.
Yeah,
thanks.
It seems like you were able to master. Do you use Canva? Is that what it is? Or do you use something else?
I use Photoshop. I mean, the reason it looks good isn't because of the tool; it's just because of the consistency, I think.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think that any one of my posts is especially good compared to any other person's posts. I think that if there's like a better key to my success, it's just the consistency, where it's like always the same message, the same colors, the same branding. And then when you look at it as like a compilation, it just feels very congruent and very fluid. Whereas if you're like, posting a picture of your breakfast, then you post a line chart, then you post a screenshot, then it's just like, it's like this mishmash. Whereas I'm just like, every single time it's a blue background, it's white text, it's, and then, people like that consistency, and they know when they come to my page what they're going to get.
Totally.
All right. So yeah, I mean, your page blows up. It seems like you have a lot more people reaching out to you during this time. Especially, I feel like during COVID, a lot of people were bored. They wanted to start investing because they're probably making more money than they even were working. Some people. So what are like the first steps people should take before they start investing?
Before investing, well, I have these like order of operations, and really the first thing you should do in your like wealth building process is to contribute to your 401k up to a match if you have one. And so many companies offer a 401k if you're employed by one, and many of those 401ks, which is a special investing account that will help you build wealth for retirement, many of those 401ks have a match where it's like if you put money in, they'll put more money in. If you don't do that, you're essentially just throwing money away. Or to look at another way, even if you have debt or whatever, and you did the worst possible thing, you contribute to the match, and then immediately drain your 401k, drain your retirement account, and pay the tax, pay the penalty, you'd still be way better off because the instant 100% return minus tax and penalty is more than what you started with. And so the first step really is actually an investing step, which is to do the 401k match. Then the second and third steps before investing are to pay off your non-mortgage debt and build an emergency fund. I'm an anti-debt guy. I think a lot of Americans are just like fixated on living beyond their means, living this monthly paycheck cycle, car payment, house payment, credit card payment, just payment. And then you just are basically like a lab rat working your whole life to make the banks rich. And so if you can stop that cycle, stop thinking about your monthly payments, start thinking about total amounts, how much debt do I have to pay off? How much is this car going to cost to buy in cash? And then pay off that debt and start buying things in cash. Then you're like, instead of drowning below the ocean, you're like rising up. I don't know. Sometimes I think of metaphors and they don't totally make sense, but I don't know where you're rising up on a plane or something. You're flying a spaceship to
maybe a parasail,
Wealthland. Yeah, you're parasailing to financial freedom.
Squirrel suits.
I love it. So what's next after that? We build an emergency fund. We're investing up to the match in our 401k. We've gotten out of debt. Do we go back to the 401k?
Then you invest. Then it's the fun part. Then you're investing to build wealth. And so, you're basically buying what I call index. And I don't call them. They're called index funds. You're buying the entire stock market at a very low cost. It's an easy way to invest in the companies of the world. Index funds have to go into accounts. So you can't put an index fund in your checking or savings account. And so you have to open up an account to put it in, like a Roth IRA. And this is probably the number one confusing point for new investors, is conflating the different types of accounts with the different types of investments. And so a very common question I get is, what's better, a Roth IRA or an index fund? Because I talk about both. And the answer is that question doesn't make any sense, because you need both of these things. One goes inside of the other, and that's how it works. And so you open up an account called a Roth IRA, and then inside of the Roth IRA goes the index fund, and inside of the index fund is all the stocks of the world. So there's like these layers, and all the Roth IRA means is inside of that bucket, inside of that account, you're never taxed again. And so, the next step would be, this is obviously American advice. This part, these accounts only apply in the U.S. because it's a tax thing. But you open up a Roth IRA, you can put up to $6,000 a year into it. Make sure to invest inside of that Roth IRA in an index fund. You can go back to the 401k. You could do an HSA, which stands for Health Savings Account. And after all those tax advantage accounts are exhausted, you can invest an unlimited amount of money in a regular old taxable brokerage account. And I think a lot of people also get confused. They say, well, once my Roth IRA is full, am I just done? And the answer is no. Like you can always invest in a regular brokerage account. That's like a savings account. You can always put more money in there. There's no limit to that. There's no max amount. You can have $1 trillion in there. Although if you did, I don't know, you might want to call your bank first. If you're putting $1 trillion in a single account, they might raise some red flags or something. And if you have $1 trillion, I don't know, you've probably committed some sort of massive crypto heist or something, because no one on earth is that rich. But yeah, just investing is the next step.
Cool. I love it. Do you have a favorite index fund or a favorite, brokerage that you use?
It's so hard because it's like, I should just give an answer to this, because the real answer is there's no one brokerage and there's no one index fund that's going to make you more rich than the other. It's the same stocks, it's the same growth. But still, I've totally sympathize with the question, because someone new to investing is like, just tell me which one. And the answer is just pick one, but don't pick a bad one. So, Vanguard, Fidelity, and Schwab are the big three US brokerages that are discount, low fee brokerages. They all offer great index funds. If you buy an index fund with them, you should make sure to buy their brand. So buy a Vanguard fund inside a Vanguard account, a Fidelity fund inside of a Fidelity account, or a Schwab fund inside of a Schwab account. My personal favorite is Fidelity. That's where I keep all my money. That said, if you don't really love the intricacies of investing, I would probably suggest that you go to a robo advisor like Betterment or Wealthfront, because these give you access to the same index funds, but there's less rope to hang yourself with. There's not a bunch of buttons you need to click, and there's not a bunch of decisions you need to make. You just put your money in, and then they handle it for you. And for people who aren't aficionados, I think that's a huge benefit. And I think that a lot of people can screw up if they do it on their own and don't care enough to learn the few hours it takes to do it right. So I think Betterment or Wealthfront are really great options, especially for either new or not very
Savvy.
not even
Well-seasoned.
savvy, but just not like hobbyist type people who just, like there's lots of areas of my life where I'm like, I don't want to deal with any of the details. And I would love the Betterment. I don't know what's a Betterment of like car repair or something. I'm like, I don't care about my car. Just make it work, make it go from A to B. I don't care. And so if that's how you feel about investing, then those robo advisors are probably a great option.
I think that's great advice. I don't think we've had anybody actually recommend like a robo-advisor, and I think that it's true. It's hard for people to learn, so they can kind of start that way and then maybe teach themselves, but at least they got somebody starting off for them the right way.
Yeah, totally.
I think a lot of us like experts sometimes let perfect be the enemy of good. I could say, well, the robo-advisors have like a small fee, or they might overstate their marketing, or they have a short track record. You could kind of like try to poke holes, but like it's very, very good. It's like nearly optimal. And if that's the difference, if someone's doing something nearly optimal or not at all, like I'll take nearly optimal rather than like split hairs about the difference between nearly optimal and optimal.
Totally. So how does someone decide, hey, I've been investing for a while now. When do I have enough money to retire and go play volleyball in Italy?
I recommend it. It's beautiful, beautiful there. This is something I learned kind of later in my life, which is this concept of a financial independence number or a FIRE number, which is, there's lots of ways to go about it, but the most common rule of thumb is for any invested portfolio, you can take 4% of the starting amount per year out of it, and then every year take that out and even increase that for inflation, and the remaining portfolio with the historical, using the historical behavior of the stock and bond markets as a guide, you'll never go broke. And so basically, when you can live off of 4% of your portfolio annually, then you are financially independent. And it's not perfect and it's no guarantee. And I think a lot of people, honestly, the people I talk to who get there are scared that's not going to work. But I've never talked to someone who is retired who has had that problem, right? And obviously it depends on the market and a bunch of other stuff. But generally, once you have enough money where 4%, so for example, if you have $1 million invested, that gives you $40,000 a year forever. Plus, generally, when people retire young, usually that income doesn't go to zero. They usually work part-time or start a side hustle or start a business or, still work because they love it or whatever. And the other thing is you're also not working in a vacuum. So for example, if there's like a bad 5 years of the market and you're like, oh man, this 4% starting to scare me now, you can change things. You can start living a little bit more frugally, or you can pick up another side job or whatever, And so I think generally, like if you get to a point where you can live on 4% of your investments, then you can feel free to become work optional.
I love it. I think that was a ton of really great information. So thank you. I did want to touch real quick before our lightning round. Well, two things, I guess. One, I know we talked a little bit about your first course about index fund investing, but I understand you just launched another course, right?
I did. I have 2 courses now. They're both $79, or you can buy them together for like $138 or something, and they're often on sale if you follow me on Instagram. But yeah, the second one's called How to Money Like a Millionaire. Basically, the first one's a deep dive on investing, which is like the most common topic. But then there's this whole host of other topics that I get asked about: banking, high yield savings accounts, insurance, taxes, estate planning, permanent versus term insurance, how to do your taxes. And there's a bunch more that I'm forgetting because I'm a little bit dusty on rattling this off. But we have like 7 major chapters like that. And it basically just goes through how to like navigate all these topics. It's kind of like the Cliff Notes version of each of these, and says, okay, for your checking account, do this; for your long-term savings, do this; for insurance, do this; for taxes, do this; for estate planning, do this. And I think it's just nice. And then I show like real examples of how I've set up my own personal finance life. And I think it's just nice to have a sounding board and say, okay, here's one millionaire who does it this way. What you should or shouldn't be intimidated by. And for sure, if you're like a young person, I think it's like a great walkthrough on your financial life. And then if you're like not super young, I think it still acts as like, fill in some of those gaps you might be missing.
Got it. Cool. I love it. And where can people access those?
Thanks for letting me pitch this, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, if you're interested in these courses, you can go to personalfinanceclub.com, click on courses. They're right there, easy to buy. We also offer a 100% money back guarantee. If you don't like the course for any reason, you can take the whole thing and then just say you didn't like it and then steal it from me, and that's fine. Some people, I don't think a lot of people steal it, but some people ask for their money back, and we just give them their money back because we're trying to make you millionaires, not sell you junk. We also donate 20% of sales to charity. And so, and we've done about $1 million in sales now over the last 2 years. And so we've donated $200,000 of that to charity. 25% of the remaining profits get split among my team, my 2 employees. What else is there? Yeah, I think that might be it's all videos and quizzes taken at your own pace. Oh, it's got unlimited lifetime access. That's the whole pitch, I think. So you can buy it, you keep it forever, reference it. We also update the courses over time. We just did a big update to our investing course for all 2022 numbers. So there you go.
Cool. I love it. And one last question, as Halloween is getting really close. I understand that there's a viral video of you out there from a little while back on one of your Halloween costumes. What the heck happened there?
I've gone pretty viral twice with Halloween costumes and had like another couple of decent ones. But yeah, the first time was I dressed up as a 13-foot tall CVS receipt, and then I walked into a CVS and bought Halloween candy, and then had the cashier scan the extra bucks coupon on my 13-foot tall costume, and the coupon actually worked and saved me $1. And I kind of surreptitiously was videoing the whole thing just by holding my phone in my hand. And then when I got home, I was at work, and my like coworkers at the time, this was before I quit my job, were like kind of egging me on to like, oh, you gotta go to a CVS. And so and they didn't even tell me to film it, but I was like, oh, I should film this, and then they're gonna think it's funny. And then when I got home, I like watched the video. I was like, this is kind of funny. And so then I like edited it real quick and posted it to Reddit, and it got a couple upvotes, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I went to bed, and then the next morning I woke up, and my phone was just like smoking. It's like ding, 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 ding. Like it was getting like, like Good Morning America and every news station, people were trying to buy the rights, and just like my email was blowing up, phone was blowing up, like, and it was like getting like 100,000 views an hour. I was like, what is going on? But it was like I posted it on October 31st at 8 p.m. or something, and so like I feel like November 1st, like the news cycle was like funny Halloween costumes or whatever. But then like November 2nd, there's just like crickets, like nobody cares about Halloween costumes 2 days after Halloween.
That's awesome. So I saw your I think it was last year. Was last year the credit card reader that you did? Yeah,
that one went pretty viral too. Got picked up by a lot of like those little like viral news outlets. Yeah, I dressed up as a working credit card reader where people could like swipe or insert or tap the card, and it would say like, if they swiped, it would say swipe not supported, try tap. And if they tried tap, it'd say tap not supported, insert. And then when they insert, it would like say declined. But if I did it, it would say accepted. So I like made a little video of that, and then that got like 15 million views on TikTok or something.
That's awesome. What's the plan for this year?
I have a plan.
Secret?
It's actually, I don't know. Let's see.
This will be out after Halloween.
We can't say what it is. It's a surprise.
Oh, will it be out after Halloween?
Yep.
Okay. Well, the plan, I'll tell you then, but you guys can't post it before Halloween. I'm going to try to be a working gas pump.
Oh.
And it will dispense beer instead of gas, and then it will have like a odometer whenever I'm pouring someone a beer.
That is
I don't know.
Awesome.
It might make for a good 10-second video.
I mean, a tank of gas costs as much as a pint of beer now, so it's
Right, exactly. No, exactly. I feel like that's I try to do things that are money related and topical, and it seems like I mean, you guys live in California. When you fill up your gas at $6.50 a gallon, I'm like, oh my Lord.
Yeah. It
So,
hurts. It hurts.
yeah.
That's bad. All right, time for the lightning round, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Jeremy.
Pressure's on.
Yep. What is your favorite beer or beverage?
Oh, beer, beverage. Water. I know it's like against, I love water. I drink it almost all the time. I was going to say, I've never actually had a cup of coffee in my life.
Oh,
Beer
wow.
might be second. I don't know. You drink water. It's like healthy and cold water on a hot day.
Yeah, and
Nothing beats water. What a lame answer.
Ah, it's
I'm
okay.
changing my answer. Meth, liquid meth. I snort it. It's delicious.
I knew you were
What-
so high energy
what's-
for a reason.
What's going to be in the what kind of beer is the costume going to dispense? Have you decided on that yet?
Probably something cheap because no one will know. And I'm gonna have to I found like a little portable keg that has a tube.
Nice.
And so I think I'm just gonna be pouring like a 12 pack of Coors Light in there or
I
something.
feel like you almost need like a stout reporter to like have it match the color of gasoline.
Or like a
But
red
gas is
ale?
clear, isn't
That's
it?
true. Yeah, I don't know. I don't ever look at it. It's always just going to my car.
I don't know either. I think it's clear.
Oil is black, Alec.
Yeah,
Gas
that's
is
probably what I'm
oil,
thinking. I'm thinking of
yeah.
oil, so I don't know. Whatever.
That's true. All right.
Oh God. All right. What is your favorite book?
I don't know. I think I'm obligated to say something by Jack Bogle, who's the founder of Vanguard. So I'll say The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. It basically lays out, it has like 25 chapters, and every chapter should be called like why index funds are the best. And it's like a very, very thorough, exhaustive, comprehensive argument. And it really makes you hard to want to pick stocks or hire a financial advisor or go with actively managed funds or hedge funds or anything like that. Cause he just like, just like destroys those. So if you're someone who, it's a little bit boring, so it's maybe not the best intro book, but if you're someone who like is in a bunch of fancier investments and you want to see the light side, it's a good read.
One of my favorite parts of that book is when he talks about how hard it is to consistently, outperform the market, and he gives examples of some of the funds that have been able to do it, but never do it for an extended period of time. And I think with the whole like Cathie Wood's ARK fund right now, finally being in a position where it underperformed the S&P over the life of that fund. But so many people were like, oh my God, like this is going to be the one where they consistently outperform the market. And it just never works.
She's the visionary.
Yeah.
And like the sad thing is, like, not only has it underperformed the S&P, that's if you invested on the day one.
Yeah.
Almost all the money came in when it was like sky high, and now it's down like 78% or something. And so people have this really bad instinct to chase past performance, and they say, oh wow, she must be the one who can see the future. And I don't know, like, no disrespect to her, like, but she's obviously like done a great job raising money for this fund and is probably financially killing it herself. But like when I hear her like arguments, she's like, technology is the future. I'm like, yeah, but we all know that. And, and you're paying so much for these stocks that the bottom could fall at any time, and it has, right? And so not only has it underperformed lifetime, it's like getting crushed for the average ARK investor who chased the past performance.
Totally.
You just can't predict the future. It's like, who knew that Macy's was going to be as cheap as it is now because Amazon came and destroyed every brick and mortar store. And it's just, you can't predict the future.
Oh yeah.
People say
Like
they can,
in the 80s, if you bought Sears stock, you'd be a genius.
Yeah.
Sears as a brick and mortar's never, people always need clothes. That's never going out of business. And like shit changes.
Yep,
and then Sears goes to zero. And so like, we want to believe that we can see things and predict what's going to happen, but humans are actually really bad at that.
Oh yeah.
Agreed.
Cool. All right, Jeremy. So what is your favorite place you have visited or place you want to visit next?
I think my favorite on that Italy trip, I stayed 2 extra weeks, and I went down the coast of Croatia and even bounced around some of the Croatian islands. And it's just like, that place is just like, you could just stop any random city in Croatia. And it's just like epically gorgeous, good food, friendly people. Everyone speaks English, which like is, nice for me because I suck at languages. Amazing waters. I don't know, Colombia's up there too. And I don't know, I've seen these like pictures of these little thatched hut like hotel rooms like over these like Pacific Island blue waters, and that looks, it seems like a super lame, imaginative and vacation, but still, it's pretty cool looking. So one of these days, I think they're really expensive though.
Yeah, like the overwater bungalow thing.
Yeah, the overwater bungalows, exactly. That
Yeah. Yeah,
in
those
Fiji or whatever those
amazing.
are.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
Maldives
awesome.
has a lot of good ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our general question, our general last question is, what does retirement look like / mean to you? So I guess for you, maybe what are you up to besides Personal Finance Club these days?
I mean, I think I need to answer that
Yeah,
by
please do.
giving some perspective from the other side of the fence, which is, if you get to retirement, it's not like life is suddenly easy. And I think people think about, they're like, oh, if I'm like financially secure, life's going to be great. Or if I don't need to work, I'd be so happy. But, then what is the question? In fact, like when I sold my company, I was kind of like casually talking to the CEO of the company who bought my company. And I said, all right, dude, I made it. I'm at the finish line. I'm like, I'll be on one of those overwater bungalows on the beach. And he said, what are you going to do when you get back? And what he meant was, you can't live your life in an overwater beach bungalow. Like that would get so fucking boring and be so lame. You just go crazy. The sound of the waves would eventually drive you mad, and it'd just be, and so he said, what are you gonna do when you get back? Because you have to like run your life. And so, retirement for me isn't about like sitting on the porch with a blanket over my lap, slowly rocking. It's about, using your time productively to do what you love. And so that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to like be happy and help people. And that's what Personal Finance Club's all about, just about spreading financial literacy. And so it's just, it's about, and I guess one big part of retirement is not having to answer to a dick boss if you don't want to, because that can definitely like make life suck. And so having that financial independence is great, but, don't think it's going to be all overwater bungalows, because I think you'll realize that gets boring. Or StarCraft 2. I don't know. Maybe I could be playing StarCraft 2 but the internet's probably terrible out there, so you're going to have new frustrations.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a super great definition and a great outlook. And it is cool to be able to hear from someone on the other side of the fence. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we haven't interviewed, I think maybe you're our third retired person on the podcast. So I mean, you are technically retired and you still have your page going. Do allow yourself one day off where you go, all right, like I'm not going to reply to any messages this day. I'm not going to post on social media, like just your Jeremy day.
That's a good question. Because since I don't have a boss, there's not really clear boundaries around when I'm working, which is also, there's not clear boundaries on when I'm not working. I generally just do kind of whatever I want. But I do try to keep doing a good job of posting and stuff. And so sometimes if I just don't feel like it, I'll just like lay on the couch for half the day and not do any work. But that's something I probably need to improve on. I'm still like thrashing around in the ocean of finding my true purpose and happiness, just like the rest of us. And for sure, like letting this work bleed into my happiness is probably something that I need to do better on.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy, again, we really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. I know, like I said earlier, we've been looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better for a while now. And everything you've said has been awesome. So we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for having me. Great show. Thanks for the beer. And I'll see you around.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeremy, for being on.
Alrighty, Alec, what did you think of our buddy Jeremy?
We finally got the legendary Jeremy from Personal Finance Club onto our podcast. I feel like we finally made it now.
Jeremy is awesome and was definitely a big goal to get on here. He's a good dude.
Yeah, no, it was great having him today. I mean, it's just incredible hearing how he's retired at age 36. But when you retire that young, I feel like you don't truly retire. And he's still going on. He's kind of posting daily on social media. He wants other people to achieve the same goals that he's achieved.
Yep, we talk about it all the time. Those people who can retire early never actually retire early because it's just a piece in your brain. You just can't sit around and do nothing. And I think Jeremy's kind of proven that to everyone as someone who's in that situation and was able to retire early. Now he's starting multiple businesses and he's still having a good time playing some beach volleyball and doing maybe some more of the things that he loves. But again, to just stop and sit and do nothing is just completely unrealistic. And, you got to still be able to find things that you're passionate about and love to do and continue to make an impact on this earth. And I think it was cool hearing that side from Jeremy.
Yeah. So thanks so much again, Jeremy. And I'm happy you were here today.
Yeah. Go give him a follow. Let's enjoy Halloween, Alex's birthday. And Jeremy, can't wait to see your costume this year. It's going to be sweet, like always.
It's going to be hard to top that CVS receipt.
Agreed. All right, buddy. You ready to get out of here?
Yep, I'm ready.
Once again, thanks for listening to the Brew Bucks podcast. My name is Jacob.
And I'm Alec.
Signing off.
Hey, I'm on vacation every single day, 'cause I love my occupation. Hey, I'm on vacation. If you don't like your life, then you should go and change it.
Hey everyone, if you've been enjoying what you've been hearing, please head over to whatever platform you're listening on and give us a 5-star rating and review. We would really appreciate it, as this helps our podcast get more traffic and allows us to continue to have quality guests on the show for your listening pleasure.
Don't forget to follow us on social media either. Follow us on Twitter at BrewBucksPod and on Instagram at BrewBucksPodcast.
This episode of the Brew Bucks podcast was brought to you by Left Coast Finance, financial coaching for individuals and families who are looking to get out of debt, budget like a boss, or even learn to invest. Learn more at leftcoastfinance.com.